Okay. Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for putting together this kind of conference and this kind of like avenue for all of us to come and share like all of these ideas. Growing up, I always kind of wanted an environment of other like-minded individuals and you who were passionate about like improving their lives, but not only that, passionate about improving like their countries, especially Nigeria as a whole. I also want to give thanks to all the guys who've gone before me, George and Ahmed. Those guys were orators. You know, I'm not an orator myself, but I'm going to do my best as we talk about some of these issues that Nigeria needs to tackle. Um, to start, when I was little, everyone who knew me, if you knew me, you knew that my goal was to someday become president of Nigeria, right? I mean, this is something that I talked about. I did not shy away from sharing this with people. You know, if you met me, it's probably one of the first things I was going to tell you is like, hey, I'm going to be president someday. Um, as I got older, though, I realized that there's people that the president answers to. The president isn't really in control. The leader isn't really in control. And as we've talked today, some people have brought up some of those things like this issue of godfatherism. Um, the president actually answers to other people, and a lot of these people are the people who helped him get in power or who provided money to fund the campaign. And that was when I decided that you know what, instead of becoming president, I'd much rather become one of those people who told the president what to do, you know? Because the way I look at it, I could be a good person, but if the people who are telling me what to do, if the people who I have to answer to are evil, then I have no choice but to do evil things. But if I'm a good person, as long as I remain good, the people who answer to me and the people who have no choice but to do what I do are always gonna do good things. Okay, so it's my goal over the next few minutes that I'll share some of these my ideas that I can help convince you guys that the solution to a lot of Africa's problems, as far as like from a leadership standpoint, lie in each one of us developing ourselves and personally becoming people of wealth in our lives and in our individual communities. Okay, can you guys still hear me? Okay, I'm gonna assume everyone can. Right. So moving on, leadership. The idea of leadership. Judge said something that I thought was pretty cool, so I'm just gonna borrow his definition. Leadership is the ability to have like a vision, to have a desired outcome, and to be able to guide oneself and one's people over to that desired outcome. That's what it means to lead. Um, One of my business mentors, one of my the people I look up to in business, he's famous for saying people don't have problems in their business. People have problems in their lives that show up in their business. And I honestly think it's the same when it comes to African countries. I don't think we have leadership. Well, I don't think we have leadership problems per se, but we have there's personal problems in the leaders. If you guys are getting what I'm trying to say, that it just comes out as they try to lead the country. The point I'm trying to make is Africa's problem per se is not necessarily corrupt leaders. My dad, Francis, one of his favorite things to say is corruption is not an Igbo word. Okay, that's our tribe. That's the dialect that we speak, Igbo. And his favorite thing to say is corruption is not an Igbo word. What was he trying to tell me? That even in the Western world, even in countries in the United States, in the UK, in Europe, there are corrupt leaders. You know, corruption is an English word, so obviously it stems from an English-speaking place, and that's true. The only difference, however, though, is because our leaders are poverty stricken. Okay. And this is not just poverty in the terms of cash, it's not just poverty in the terms of bank balances. However, it's poverty of ideas and poverty of morals. Okay. And the reason I feel like that is the problem with our leadership is because, assuming it was an issue of corruption, for example, in the Western world where you have corruption, a leader could be corrupt. He's only going to steal like 20% of the funds, but 80% of it is going to go to, whatever the project was supposed to do. However, in most African countries, for example, Nigeria to be specific, we have leaders who will take 100% and there I say maybe 150%. Why? Because they would take 100% of the budget, whatever it was supposed to be used for that month, put in their pocket, request for some more, and when the when it comes, what do? They still put it in their pocket. Okay, so that's not corruption. That's poverty, and that's kind of it's kind of led to a vicious cycle. Uh, Vicious cycle in the sense that people now look at power as when it's my turn. I'm going to try and set myself and my family for life. Okay. No one's in power. The people we have in power, they're not really trying to make things better. They're not really trying to change our lives. They're not really trying to change our situations. They're literally just trying to put money in their pocket and to make sure their kids are set for the rest of their life. You know, I mean, wasn't it CARG like the other time that the EFCC raided his house? I think they found about 1 trillion, 1 trillion naira in cash, just chilling in the living room. You know, I mean, what are you doing with that much money? You know, it's I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine what that looks like. But that was the amount that he had in cash, just laying around in his house. You know, and that makes you wonder. Okay, if that was what he had laying around in cash in his house, I wonder what he had in offshore accounts. What did he have in accounts in Swiss? What did he have in offshore investments? You know, the point I'm trying to make is Africa's problem is the people who are in leadership. They're poor, poverty stricken, poverty of ideas, and poverty of morals. Okay. Someone else mentioned today that a lot of the problem when it comes to like people in power is this idea of godfatherism, and I think it's true. A lot of the people who get to power, a lot of how like kind of like that selection process of who gets to run in the next election, whoever is in power right now, and then they're kind of it goes like a chain of command, all the people that he's cool with, and usually how do they become cool with the person in power? It's just kind of like by doing whatever he says, by becoming an errand boy, and just being a yes man to the person in power. You know, like whatever they say, you say, oh yeah, yeah, sure, I'll do it, and by so doing, they try to like buy favor in the eyes of whoever is in power right now, so that like when the person is leaving, the person can give them a nudge or a nod to be like the next in line. um any man who has a lot going for themselves, any man who can stand on their own 2 feet, I can tell you this, is not interested in being a yes man or running errands for another man. Okay. And that kind of leads me to the next point about this, which is what can we do about it? um I think the solution to a lot of Nigeria and Africa as a whole problem when it comes to leadership is everyone taking extreme ownership. I think it lies in a wave of personal development. I think in all of it lies in all of us becoming ambitious. Um, I'm kind of a little bit all over the place right now, but I have some ideas that I'm going to share, and I feel like with these ideas, we can take them and put them into action, and it will get us well on our way to becoming the people who can lead in the future. All right. First and foremost, we all need to be able to stand on our own. We all need to be able to stand on our own 2 feet. Okay. But besides that, the next point that I want to make is that no one can change the world for you. We all need to understand that we can't wait on someone else. We can't wait on our leaders, because if we want to wait on our leaders to change our world for us, we're going to be waiting forever. That's just the fact of the matter. These people have no interest in helping us out. We are the only ones who can. We are the only ones who can do that for ourselves. Okay, and so that's the idea of taking extreme ownership. That we're the only ones who can change our world. Okay, the next idea is that for you to change the world, you have to change your world first. Does that make sense? For you to be able to change the world, you have to change your own world first. Okay. A lot of the people we find in power, and a lot that's kind of like their problem. Uh, they're struggling. They're struggling. They can't stand on their own 2 feet. They can't stand or rely on their own ideas, and that's why when they end up in power, they decide like the solution is just to steal and steal and steal as much as they can, because they don't know when they're ever going to be able to come across like that much money or resources ever again. Do you see the problem? However, if they were people who were already grounded by themselves, who already had their own like legit businesses and legit investments and who could stand on their own 2 feet, they will literally have no need for the country's resources, and they will be able to actually like deploy them into places where like they are needed. Okay. So the point I'm trying to make here is that we need to be able to change our worlds. We need to be able to change our lives before we can change the world around us. Okay. Um, Now that brings me to the next point. How do we now go about this? How do we go about changing our world? All right. So for this part, I have three ideas that I want to share. All right. Let me see 1 second. Three ideas that I want to share as far as like how we can go about changing our worlds. Okay. The first, who do you know right now has the life that you want to live? Who in your local network, who in your circle of influence, who can you think of right now that is already living the dream life that you would like to live? How can you get around them? What can you do to be of service or of value to them? So after you've identified them, after you've gotten around them, not asking for handouts, but like providing value to them, the next thing you do is figure out from them what did you do to get to your position right now, and what can I do from where I am right now to get to where you are right now. Does that make sense? The best way I found to get anything in life is to go to who already has it and ask them to tell you. I mean, you might have to sometimes you might have to pay them, or might have to do one or two things for them. That's legit, of course, but ask them to tell you what it was that they did to get to that position. Okay. That actually saves you a lot of time from trial and error. It saves you a lot of time from making mistakes yourself. That way you can learn from the mistakes of others. So that's the first pillar. Figure out who has the kind of life that you want to live. How do you get around them? How can you become like them? The next step is take everything that they've told you, take all the major pillars that they've told you, and divide your year or the next couple of years into 90-day increments. And then in each of those 90 days, focus on one or two of those things. All right. It's amazing how uh, like beginning of the year, everyone has like really nice ideas about what they want to achieve that year. Everyone has like really nice goals. Everyone has a like New Year's resolution. But what have we all noticed? By the time you get to February or March, everyone kind of like tends to forget. Like not a lot of people are actually like pushing forward with those their New Year's resolutions. So that's why I'm talking about like 90-day increments. Don't think about the whole year at once. Don't think about the whole 365 days or months at once. Think about it in 90 days, 90 days at a time. All right. So you take one or two pillars of whatever it was that person told you. You take whatever it was that they told you, and then you pick a certain 90-day block and you focus on one or two of those things for that 90 days. Okay. The next pillar I want to talk about is environment. All right. Now we need to create an environment that kind of like allows us to focus on those things. All right. What do I mean by environment? The books that we read, the kind of motivation that we listen to, the kind of people that we let come around us, the kind of people that we go to hang around. Are these people that are also that have similar goals? Um, One of my favorite quotes is this idea that we're products of our environment. And then I add my own little spin to it. I'm sure everyone has heard that quote that we are products of our environment. My own little spin that I add to it is if I'm a product of my environment, then I can get around an environment where people are already doing the things that I aspire to do. All right. It's kind of like the saying that says that you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most, right? Um, so if I'm right here and I want to be here, and I know that I'm the average of the 5 people I hang around the most, I'm gonna try and find a way to find 4 or 5 people who are already up here and try and hang around them, so that by becoming an average, I can already be on that level. Does that make sense? The whole point of what I'm trying to make is that by personally developing ourselves, we can get to a point where like we've changed our worlds personally. After we do that, we can now like take a lot of our surplus and we can now start investing in our communities. Okay. Instead of waiting, I'm one person who I don't believe in waiting for government or leaders to do anything. Okay. If I feel like there's something that needs to be done in our community, I'll look at it myself and be like, okay, how do I become the person that is capable of doing this. All right. So what I'm trying to preach is all of us develop ourselves, develop our minds, develop our bank accounts, develop our lives, and then eventually get to a point where we can start to give back in our community. Okay. Imagine you be the type of person where just in the neighborhood that you grew up or in the village that you're living in, maybe there's like a road that needs to be built. Maybe there's like a park that needs to be renovated. Okay. Or maybe the kids need a library where they need to go study after school. And imagine you've gotten yourself to the point where it's like, I can actually donate to building this library, or I can actually build that library myself. The interesting thing is, after doing enough of these projects for your community, people actually, I feel, would start to reach out to you to be like, hey, why don't you come do this on a bigger scale? Why don't you come do this on a state level? Why don't you take it to the next level? You know what I mean? They're actually going to start to reach out to you to come for positions of power. It's like they have that saying that fine boys like us, not them, they rush us. It's kind of like that. So like when you become a wealthy person, when you become a person that can stand on their own 2 feet themselves, people will actually start reaching out to you to come and hold positions of power. And that's the interesting thing. When someone else is reaching out, when you're the one going and asking someone to do something, you have to do it on their terms. You have to do it on their time. But when people are coming to reach out to you, they have to do it on your terms. They have to do it on your time. And when you get to that point, then when we get to that point, we can now start to be like, if I'm actually going to come and run, this is kind of what I expect. We can now lay out the terms of how we want our leadership to be. Okay. So to sum up everything that I'm trying to say, I'm just going to summarize real quick, and then we can head into some questions if any are available. Africa's problem is we have a lot of morally bankrupt people. We have a lot of poor, poverty-stricken leaders, and they get in power and they decide this is their opportunity to siphon everything. I think the solution lies in each one of us realizing that these leaders are not going to solve the problem for us. We all have to rise up in our own little ways and try and solve these problems for ourselves. We all have to take responsibility and figure out what it is that we can do in our lives to change our lives, so that by the time we have changed our lives, we can get to a position where we start to change the lives of others around us. And I know that by so doing, a lot more good can be done in the society, and a lot more good things will follow. All right, so that's pretty much what I had to say on the topic.